Hello, welcome to Treasury 360 with me, Kojo Arthur, and today we'll be discussing repo. There's a lot of talk about repo currently in the financial markets in Ghana because there's been the launch of the guidelines for the Global Master Repurchase Agreement as well as the Ghana Fixed Income Market. This event took place at the Kempinski Hotel and it had the likes of the Central Bank Governor, the Finance Minister, and the Vice President all in attendance. All these three very important people were in attendance at this launch, and the launch was held a day before the reading of the budget. So if you see the Finance Minister out at an event a day before the reading of the budget for Ghana and for the 2020 budget, it means this event is very important, and this event was centered around the repo market in Ghana. There's always been a repo market in Ghana. However, how we were doing the repo market in Ghana presented some challenge, which means that we had to adopt a more international version of the repo market, which led us to launching the guidelines for the Global Master Repurchase Agreement. I'll do a separate video of the Global Master Repurchase Agreement and the Ghana Fixed Income Market and how the two of them come together to form something very important to drag the Finance Minister out to the launch of these two entities. Alright, so we'll dive into repos. Now, a repo is a short-term lending facility or a short-term borrowing facility, depending on what you're doing, and it is collateralized, or there's a security attached to this lending. So I'll draw a central bank. This is my central bank. So let's say this is BOG. And then we have a bank A. And a bank B. So bank A is in the business of taking deposits and writing loans. Okay, so it's a commercial bank, it's another commercial bank. And commercial banks have an account at the central bank where they keep their funds. Now, central bank also has a requirement of commercial banks where they are required to keep a cash reserve requirement. All right, so the cash reserve requirement for Ghana is currently 10%. So there's a 10% cash reserve requirements that the central bank demands on Bank A and Bank B. So Bank A takes a deposit from its customer, let's say a deposit of 100 cedis. And Bank A is in the business of taking deposits and lending, just like all commercial banks. So Bank A promises this customer who deposited 100 cedis 5% per annum, and then goes ahead to write a loan, because it's in the business of doing this, of 100 cedis. And the loan he gives out at 10% per annum. So Bank A in central bank, so there's an account where this is A and this is B. They all have an account at central bank. Bank A took a deposit of 100 cedis and gave out a loan of 100 cedis, and so its bank account with central bank is 0. However, there's supposed to be a 10% cash reserve requirement in its account. So 10% of 100 cedis will be a 10 cedis that it's supposed to keep in central bank. Bank B also takes a deposit. It's also in the business of taking deposits. So it takes a deposit of 120 cedis and also promises a 5% per annum. Then goes ahead to write a loan of 80 cedis and is also promised, let's say, a 10% per annum. So 10% per annum, these are the balances. Now, if it took a 120 and has written out a loan of 80, it means Bank B would have a 40 in its account, whilst Bank A has nothing. So Bank A, now there's a market that has come about because there's a 10% primary reserve requirement, and 10% of the total deposit of Bank B will be at 12 CDs, and 10% of the total deposit of Bank A will be at 10 CDs. However, Bank B has 40 CDs in its account, and Bank A has nothing in its central bank account. So this creates a market where there's a supply and there's a demand. So the dealer, money market dealer from Bank A, calls up money market dealer on Bank B and says, I want to borrow 10 CDs. And Bank B says, sure, I have 10 CDs. I want 10 CDs. Bank A says, I want 10 CDs in my central bank account. Bank B says, yes, you've got it. Because I have 40 CDs in my central bank account and it's going to earn me nothing. So they agree. However, Bank B demands this deposit. Bank B is in the business of writing loans and has already written 80 CDs loan and is looking to write more loans. So on overnight basis, tomorrow, Bank B will need its 40 CDs to go out and market for more loans. So he asks Bank A, how long do you need this money for? He says, oh, I need it for just one day, because I'm also in the business of taking deposits and I'm sure I'll get some deposit to replace the 10 CDs. So Bank B says, okay, I can lend you 10 CDs for a day. However, I'll need some collateral. Something that is valuable in the market in case you can't meet your obligations that I can offload into the market and get my cash back because I'll be writing more loans. So this leads to the repo transaction that has, so this is Bank A and Bank B. So Bank A is in need of cash, so Bank B gives Bank A 10 CDs. And Bank A is supposed to secure this with some securities. So it sends a bond this way. Now, the value of this bond can either be 10 CDs worth, but realistically, Bank B will need some cushion and say, give me a bond that is worth 12 CDs, for example, because the price of the bond may go up and down, and when it goes down, I don't want to be worse off. So there's a haircut, which means that there's a security, or let's say a bond, that is worth 12 CDs. Right? So in exchange for cash of 10 CDs, Bank A sends a bond worth 12 CDs, so there's a 2 CD haircut on the transaction. So now Bank A has the 10 CDs in this account, and Bank B has invested, has paid out, so it will lose 10 CDs here, and so the final balance will be 10 here and 30 here. Okay, so this is the repurchase agreement for 1 day between Bank A and Bank B. Bank A, when it's time for payment, Bank A returns to Bank B its 10 CDs plus a 1 CD interest, which is 11 CDs. That 1 CD interest represents the repo rate that the transaction was done at. So Bank A returns 10 CDs plus a little interest to Bank B, and Bank B, upon the following day, returns the bond, which was worth 12 cedis at the time. So the same quantity of bond is returned. Now this is initial transaction, 10 cedis and 12 cedis worth of bonds with a haircut of a certain percentage of haircut. So this concludes a complete repo agreement where Bank A needed 10 cedis to meet its cash reserve requirement in the central bank, and Bank B had 40 cedis and did a repo transaction worth 10 cedis, and now is back with 11 cedis upon maturity. So upon maturity, this happens. 10 goes out, 1 also goes out, $10 comes in, and the 1 interest comes in. And so upon maturity, we have a -1 here, and 41 here. All right. Now, where did Bank A get its -1? Remember, it gave out a loan that was paying 10% per annum. So it had an asset that was generating this. All right. And Bank B didn't have to sit with 40 cedis and return for its 40 cedis, but because of the repo transaction, had 1 cedi interest to give out as a loan the following day. So this is the mechanics of a repo. Very simple to understand. I'll give a little recap. Bank A had a deposit and gave out all the deposit as a loan, and therefore needed the 10% primary reserve requirement. Spoke to Bank B, who had excess, and they transacted a repo transaction. So this is the repo, where Bank A borrowed 10 cedis and gave out a bond valued 12 cedis, and the following day, Bank A returned 10 cedis plus 1 cedi to Bank B, and the bonds were returned. So in conclusion, the repo market provides short-term investing for banks with excess liquidity, and also provides short-term availability of cash to banks that require liquidity. So this market has been created to enable banks to invest or borrow liquidity to meet certain obligations. Now, the repo market has been existent in the Ghanaian financial markets for a very long time, and what we're trying to do now, or what the Bank of Ghana in conjunction with the Ghana fixed income market is trying to do, is to standardize and make it internationally recognizable by adopting the Global Master Repurchase Agreement. In my next video on repos, we'll be looking at more detailed aspect of the repo, where we look at the types of repo and what happens to the legal aspect of repos as well. So stay tuned for that.